This video is a composite of what our team learned from spending 3 years working on the disaster of an animated series, WGTS, Weep's Guide to School. Though it was a failure, we do not regret working on the series and ended up making many crucial steps to creating an animated series that may not be obvious at first. In this video, we will explain the creation and eventual collapse of WGTS. It all started in fall 2016 when Salty and I met up after not seeing each other for several years. We talked for a while, and later we had the idea to create a manga series, Yandere's Guide to School. Yet, we were not satisfied. I decided to take it a step further, make it more challenging. I suggested we should animate it. We wanted to make a series that's fun and interesting with a hint of drama, which was gradually cut out in later scripts that will never see the light of day. After a bit more planning, we decided on the basics of the series along with a name change that we think will fit the series for years to come, Weeb's Guide to School.
WGTS was underdeveloped when we started animating. We started working on the script with only a few things to refer back to, like some primitive character designs and basic traits to go along with them. That's it. Pretty much everything in the scripts was improvised.
It also didn't help that because the characters were underdeveloped, their personalities changed over the course of making the scripts, which further muddled the plot. Danny was initially intended to be a very plot-heavy character and a completely different one in general. He was supposed to be a very mysterious and jaded character, which did a complete 180, and now he's a harmless and very childish video game junkie.
We didn't have much of a general direction for the series, which affected it detrimentally. WGTS, especially episode 1, constantly switched between drama, comedy, and action without feeling centered too much around any one of them. As the series went on, we decided to make it more comedy-centered. I think we improved a lot over the course of making the scripts as we learned more professional techniques and learned a bit more about the mood we were going for in each episode. It's a bit sad that almost all of them were never animated, but that's what was coming to us in a series that was doomed to fail from the beginning. Why was it doomed? In that respect, we've only scratched the surface of the surface. One of the major planning mistakes we made was making the scripts too long. Now, if you're an animation studio, you'd be able to handle larger scripts, but we were just, at the time, two stupid little 7th graders who thought they'd be able to pull off a Q&E level series. Making the scripts long meant each episode took just about forever to animate at the quality we were aiming for. This problem could have been alleviated by either shortening the length of scripts per episode or lowering the animation quality, but we weren't willing to resolve it either way.
Another reason this series was doomed was because of the order in which we decided to receive lines. We held a casting call for voice actors before we finished working on scripts, which meant we waited for months between the time in which we casted a role and the time in which we gave the voice actors their scripts. This is a problem because by then, some of the voice actors had become inactive and had not responded when we finally gave them their scripts to voice, and thus we missed out on voice acting for several roles. We're still missing several roles that we could have had given we finished the script before sending out a casting call. In short, if you're having voices, make sure that you finish the script before sending out a casting call, so you miss out on as few roles as possible. Another issue we created with scripts was not putting the intended emotions of each line before them. For example, if a character was to say, "Yay, I love school," in the script, the voice actors wouldn't exactly be able to tell if their intended tone of voice was happy, sarcastic, or something else unless defined. How we define it, and I'm not exactly sure how proper this is to do in scripts, but it works, is putting the intended emotion in parentheses in front of the character who's saying the lines, like this. Sarcastically, Danny, "Yay, I love school." But because we didn't write the intended emotion in front of some of our lines, we didn't receive voice-acted lines with the tone of voice we wanted. I would like to clarify that this is our fault, not the voice actors. You guys did a really good job.
On to the biggest issue with the creation of our series, the animation production.
We were overly optimistic about the animation production of WGTS, which we have learned is not a particularly good thing. You probably noticed the constant style changes throughout episode 1 as we realized creating studio-level production is unreasonable to achieve efficiently. Having been inspired by the works of Kyoto Animation, I wanted to create a series that was animated just like it. I wasn't exactly a wise person back then. You couldn't exactly say I'm wise now either, but I learned to think a little bit more realistically, at least when taking on a huge project like this. Expect to spend hours and hours at a computer working on animation. It's by far the largest time sink in an animated series. For reference, it took over 36 hours over the course of 2 weeks to finish this scene right here. Episode 1, in full, took a year and a half to create. Episode 2 only took 6 months because we decided to adopt a slightly simpler animation style and got a new member to our team, Bakubro.
I helped on the backgrounds in episode 1 and episode 2. However, the burnout and general dissatisfaction with the series kept us from being able to go on much longer. It didn't have to be this way, but our dreams were too big and our team too small, as well as the production quality being too much to realistically achieve for an extended period of time. Some of our character designs were also not well adapted to animation, especially Topaz's original magical girl design. Later, Salty changed it to be easier to animate, though I suppose it has only one episode to shine due to our choice to cancel WGTS.
What to take from this is that if you are going to make an animated series with detailed animation, make sure you have a good-sized team or never expect to finish before you go insane. At first, we were motivated. Making the first episode, while in retrospect being a disaster, was fun, and at the time we were decently proud of our work. Motivation started to dip in episode 2, and during the production of episode 3, we had both reached a low in which we decided we had to cancel the series for the sake of our mental health.
The main thing that had kept us motivated was us fantasizing about how the animation would look in the final episodes, when we'd have learned so much about art. However, animation production was taking over our lives. The quality of work we held ourselves to was unsustainable with just a team of 3. Every time I wanted to work on a different art or animation project, I would suppress it in the name of WGTS. If there was an art challenge I wanted to participate in, I would suppress it in the name of WGTS. Everything I did, I would ask myself, how does this affect WGTS's production? My art started to stagnate as I would work on WGTS in place of practicing. To add insult to injury, our series wasn't even getting views. Now I know views aren't everything, but it's pretty disheartening to release a project you've worked hard on for over 2 years and it doesn't even amass you 1,000 views, and that's when I knew I had to tell Artsy. At first we figured we would see how much we could get done by the end of high school and then quit, but as we talked we decided we would cut it off at episode 3. It was an earlier death than either of us had anticipated, and it was sad, as WGTS was a rather large part of our lives for all this time, but we knew it was the right decision.
We ended up deciding that animation wasn't the best medium in which to create the series. We still wanted to create WGTS, but this time we were going to do it right. We decided to recreate everything and put it into a comic instead.
That brings us to our next topic of discussion. When you're thinking about creating a series, always consider what medium would be best for the ideas you're trying to convey. We've learned that animation is one of the most immersive, but also one of the most challenging ways to tell a story. In some ways, it can also be limiting. Your art style can't be too detailed, and if you are to create a series of high animation quality, then expect to spend hours upon hours sitting at a computer animating. If you're going to make an animated series, you need to be extremely committed to it, or you would most certainly cancel it.
Comics are less immersive, but it's much more suitable than animation for small teams. You also have the freedom to create more detailed drawings. Novels are also a great way to convey your ideas. Novels' immersiveness depends on how well of a writer you are. It takes the least amount of materials, but it requires a lot of skill to clearly depict an image in the reader's mind.
We do not regret creating WGTS. Disaster as it was, if you want to make an animated series, we highly recommend it. It's a great learning experience and an extremely rewarding and fun way to tell a story.
Just make sure to ask yourself the following questions. Do you know who your characters are? Do you know what direction you want to take your series in? Is your team fit to create an animated series with the animation quality you want? Are you ready to take on an immense amount of work? Are you willing to accept that if your work, though having taken long amounts of time, is not seen by many? Is this the best medium to consider for your story? Thank you for watching our mini documentary, and good luck on your animated projects in the future.